My name is Shauna Collins, and I'm 32 years old now. I work a stable job, live in a quiet house, and sleep through the night without bracing for yelling in the next room. None of that came from where I grew up. My family wasn't something you leaned on. It was something you survived. That truth settled into me early. My older brother, Dustin Collins, was the axis our entire household revolved around. Every memory I have of childhood feels tilted in his direction, like gravity itself, bent to accommodate his moods. Mornings didn't start with breakfast. They started with damage. A broken lamp, a slammed door, a shout from the hallway that made everyone freeze. If Dustin wasn't yelling, he was punching walls. If he wasn't punching walls, he was lying about something so unnecessary it felt almost compulsive. And my parents, Angela and Jefferson Collins, treated him like a misunderstood miracle instead of a growing disaster. He's sensitive, my mother would say, smoothing his hair after he'd thrown something across the room. People provoke him. My father would add his voice sharp, like the world was the enemy, and Dustin was under siege. I learned quickly that silence was safer. I didn't ask for much. I didn't need much, and somehow that translated into deserving nothing at all. The first time I noticed the difference, I was 7. I'd won a small reading award at school, nothing impressive, just a ribbon and a certificate printed on thin paper. I stood by the classroom door, clutching it, watching other kids get hugged and congratulated. My mother arrived late. Dustin had destroyed a cabinet door that morning, so she was already angry when she saw me. She rushed past without slowing. "Shauna, get in the car. I don't have time today." She never even glanced at what I was holding. That wasn't an exception. It was a pattern that repeated until it stopped feeling personal and started feeling structural. My events were postponed then, forgotten, then dismissed as background noise under whatever crisis Dustin had created that week. I learned to hold my pride quietly, to fold it small. Showing it only made it easier to ignore. There was only one person who ever noticed. My uncle Wilson Collins, my father's older brother, was a mechanic with permanently oil-stained hands and zero patience for denial. When he came by, he didn't hover or pity. He'd just look at me and ask, "You holding up?" When Dustin exploded, Wilson was the only one who said the word my parents refused to use. "Jeff, your son's out of control." My father would bristle. "You don't understand what we deal with." My mother always followed with "Dustin is special." Wilson would sigh like he'd heard it too many times already. One night sticks with me more than the rest. Dustin had gotten into another fight at school. My parents were pacing, defending rewriting reality out loud. I set my math certificate on the counter just to see if they'd look. My father brushed it aside without reading it. "Not now," my mother snapped. "Your brother is going through something serious." Then Dustin walked in bragging about punching another kid, and they laughed. Actually laughed. I picked my certificate up off the floor. That was the moment I understood something fundamental. I wasn't competing with my brother. I was competing with my parents' need to pretend he wasn't exactly who he was. And I was never going to win. Later that night, Wilson found me hiding in the garage. "Don't let them make you small," he said. "You're not the problem here." No one had ever said that to me before. That was the child they raised, the girl who learned it was safer to disappear than to hope. And that lesson followed me everywhere. By the time Dustin reached his teenage years, our house no longer felt like a home. It felt like a structure engineered around disaster. Every wall braced for impact. Every conversation preemptively defensive. Nothing about him improved with age. If anything, his anger sharpened, his entitlement deepened, and my parents' loyalty hardened into something brittle and dangerous. What changed wasn't Dustin, it was Angela and Jefferson. They stopped correcting him entirely. They stopped asking questions. Instead, they took up positions, defenders, spokespeople, editors of reality. Every incident came with a pre-written explanation. Teachers were incompetent. Neighbors were judgmental. Coaches were biased. Cops were targeting him. The story was always the same. Dustin was a victim of everyone else's misunderstanding. I learned the script by heart. The first time I saw it performed in public was at a family gathering at my aunt's place. Folding tables sagged under aluminum trays. Paper plates blew across the yard. Kids ran barefoot through the grass, shrieking with summer energy. For a moment it felt normal until Dustin arrived. He came wound tight, jaw clenched, eyes darting. My father hovered, murmuring, "Just be cool." My mother watched him the way people watch a lit fuse. We lasted 20 minutes. A cousin joked, too lightly, too casually, about Dustin being grounded again. Dustin snapped like he'd been waiting for permission. "Say it again," he said, stepping forward. "I'm kidding," My cousin laughed, already backing up. Dustin shoved him anyway. A chair scraped. Drink spilled. The yard went silent like someone had pulled the plug on the day. My aunt rushed in, voice sharp. Stop it. My father moved first toward my cousin. Watch your mouth, he snapped. Don't provoke him. Provoke him, my aunt shot back. He shoved my kid. My mother slid in behind my father, voice trembling, already shaping the narrative. Dustin's been dealing with a lot. He doesn't respond well to mocking. Mocking. That's what she called it. My Uncle Wilson walked over from the grill, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked at Dustin once. Enough. Dustin scoffed. Mind your business. It became my business when you put hands on family, Wilson said calmly. My father bristled. He's having a hard time. Wilson didn't blink. You know what he's having, no consequences. My mother hissed his name like a warning. Not here. Wilson nodded like he expected that. Right. Not here, not anywhere. That's why this keeps happening. Dustin wandered off, smirking, already absolved. The gathering restarted stiffly, conversations, forced laughter hollow. I stood near the cooler, pretending to be invisible, which by then was second nature. Later, my aunt handed me a soda. How's school, Shauna? It's good, I said. I'm doing really well. She smiled. I heard you're top of your class. That's amazing. My mother appeared instantly like she'd been summoned by praise. Shauna's fine, she said quickly. She's always been easy. Easy, like I didn't count. My father nodded toward the yard, where Dustin was already arguing again. Dustin's the one we worry about. He's got real struggles. After that, the years blurred together into a familiar pattern. Fights, suspensions, stolen things, angry phone calls, and always my parents rewriting events to keep Dustin blameless and themselves righteous. He learned he didn't need to change. He just had to wait for them to fix the story. My life kept happening on the edges. I won awards they promised to attend and didn't. I celebrated birthdays they forgot until evening. One year, my father shoved cash into my hand and said we'd celebrate later. We never did. In 8th grade, I tried to say it gently. It feels like everything is about Dustin. My mother's face hardened instantly. Don't start Shauna. My father didn't look up. You've got it easy. Be grateful. My 8th grade graduation sealed it. I scanned the folding chairs from the stage. They weren't there. They were across town cleaning up Dustin's latest mess. They told me I'd be fine without them. I was, but that was the moment I stopped waiting. By the time Dustin reached high school, I understood my role perfectly. He created gravity, my parents orbited, and I learned to disappear before they pushed me there themselves. It was safer that way. Dustin's 5th DUI happened on a Thursday night just weeks after I finished high school. The first 4 never stayed DUIs for long. Each one had been sanded down by expensive lawyers, rewritten into lesser charges and second chances my parents insisted proved the system worked. This time, there were too many witnesses and too much damage for anyone to pretend it was nothing. He crashed into a parked car hard enough to shove it halfway up the curb. I was at the kitchen table that night, sorting through college paperwork, when the house phone rang. My mother answered, went silent, then made a sound like the air had been punched out of her chest. She handed the phone to my father with shaking hands. You've got to be kidding me, he snapped. Then louder. My son wouldn't do that. He wouldn't have that on him. By the time he hung up, my mother was already crying. They're out to ruin him, she said. He's not that kind of boy. But the report was clear. Dustin was drunk. He could barely stand. And when the officers searched his jacket, they found a small bag tucked into the pocket. Possession was added to the DUI. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't someone else's jacket. It was Dustin, drunk, reckless, and finally cornered by consequences my parents couldn't talk away. My father paced the kitchen like reality itself had offended him. Those cops planted it, he said. They've been harassing him for years. My mother clung to his arm. They know he has issues. They take advantage of him. He's too trusting. I sat there watching them rewrite the night in real time and felt something inside me go cold. This wasn't shock. This was inevitability finally catching up. By morning, the legal bills had already started. The car Dustin hit belonged to a local business owner. There were towing fees, storage fees, court documents, mandatory programs, and numbers my father threw around like they were nothing. We'll get a real lawyer, he said, not some public defender trash. My mother nodded fast as if speed could make it true. We'll figure it out. We always do. That same afternoon, a large envelope sat on the counter with my name on it. I knew what it was before I opened it. Acceptance. I tore it open, read the letter twice, and felt something unfamiliar and fragile rise in my chest. Excitement. Real excitement. The kind that doesn't ask permission. I walked into the living room holding it. I got in, I said, "This is good. I can finally start planning." They barely reacted. "So, can we look at the college fund?" I asked. "The one Grandma and Grandpa set up." The room went still. My mother froze. My father's face shifted like I'd said something offensive. He rubbed his forehead and sighed, the way he did when he was about to deliver a verdict. "Shauna," he said slowly, "about that money." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" My mother stepped forward. "It's gone." The word didn't land at first. Gone. How? Not all at once, she said quickly. It just bled out over the years. Lawyer retainers, court fees, emergencies. Emergencies meaning Dustin. "You used my college fund on Dustin's arrests," I said, waiting for someone to laugh and tell me it was a joke. My father snapped instead. "Your brother needed help. Legal bills aren't cheap." "It wasn't your fund," my mother added sharply. "It was for the family, and Dustin needed it more." I held up the letter. "I've been planning for this since middle school. Grandma told me." "Don't bring her into this," my mother cut in. She didn't know what Dustin would go through. "So all of it?" I asked. "Everything they saved for me." My father stepped closer, voice firm like a lecture. "You're smart. You'll be fine. You'll get scholarships. You'll work. Real life isn't handed to you." "But it's handed to him," I said. My mother's face twisted. "Don't talk about your brother like that. You should be proud we kept him safe." Proud. Proud that the only safety net I had was gone because Dustin couldn't stay sober long enough to avoid a felony. "I'm not arguing about this," my father said. "Family steps up. You should want to help." That was the moment it all clicked. Every missed birthday, every ignored achievement, every time I was told to be grateful for nothing, it all led here. Dustin didn't just come first. He was the only one who ever counted. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I went upstairs, grabbed 2 bags, filled them with what I needed, and came back down. My mother stared at them. "Where are you going?" "Somewhere that isn't here." "Don't be dramatic," my father barked. But I was already walking out the door. Outside, Uncle Wilson leaned against his truck like he'd been waiting. "You're done, huh?" he asked. "Yeah." He pulled a wad of bills from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. "Take it. Get yourself set up." Then softer, "You didn't break this family." "They did." I didn't look back. I left my parents' house with 2 bags and enough cash from Uncle Wilson to cover maybe a week of food if I was careful. I was 18, technically an adult, which meant I could rent a room even if I had no idea how to live yet. I didn't have a plan. I just needed distant space where no one could demand gratitude from me for my own neglect. The cheapest place I found was a shared house on the edge of town. 3 strangers, all of us renting individual rooms in a place that felt held together by duct tape and lowered expectations. The bathroom door barely closed. The kitchen sink leaked nonstop. The living room smelled like old takeout and cigarette smoke that never quite left the walls. My room was barely wide enough for a mattress and a folding table, but it was mine. That alone felt revolutionary. Within a week, I got a job at a gas station. Minimum wage rotating shifts, and a manager who treated restocking shelves like a personal moral test. I didn't complain. Complaining felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. For the first time in my life, everything rent, food, survival depended entirely on me. Some weeks I opened my bank app and saw single-digit numbers. Overdraft fees punished every wrong guess. Food became strategic instant noodles, frozen dinners, whatever was cheapest near closing time. I took the bus everywhere. When the last one didn't show, I walked 40 minutes home, keys clenched between my fingers, heart pounding, until I locked the door behind me. After a few months, I picked up extra shifts at a warehouse loading trucks. It paid slightly better, but it left my back aching and my hands torn up. I'd come home coated in dust and sweat shower and fall asleep immediately. Exhaustion became a constant companion, but it was honest. No one was rewriting my reality for me anymore. The roommates were exactly what you'd expect. One ate anything left in the fridge. One blasted video games until 2 in the morning. One smoked inside, despite every complaint. But we all shared the same unspoken goal, make rent survive the month, so we tolerated each other. Budgeting was something I learned by failing repeatedly. I overspent, then lived on peanut butter sandwiches. I forgot bills, got hit with fees, skipped bus passes. Eventually, I bought a cheap notebook and a calculator. Every dollar went on a list taped to the wall. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. Uncle Wilson checked on me every couple of weeks. He'd pull up in his truck, glance at my worn shoes, and ask, "You eating?" I'd nod. He never lectured. He showed me how to fix things instead. Patch a leak, replace a hinge, stretch a dollar. When I scraped together enough money to buy a junky old car, he spent an afternoon helping me replace belts and hoses. The car rattled at every stoplight, but it got me to work without waiting on buses that might not come. After almost a year of scraping by, I let myself think about school again. The acceptance letter hadn't stopped mattering just because my parents had stolen the money. I applied to community college instead, cheaper, closer, realistic. I filled out financial aid forms on a borrowed laptop, wrote scholarship essays late at night, and saved every extra dollar from overtime shifts. When the approval emails came, it felt like a door cracking open. I started with a few classes, nothing overwhelming, just enough to see if I could balance work and school. My days settled into a brutal rhythm warehouse at Dawn gas station in the afternoon class in the evening, then home to study until sleep took over. It sounds miserable written out, but it wasn't. For the first time, my effort went towards something that was mine. Meanwhile, Dustin kept spiraling. I heard about it through neighbors or Wilson. More fights. Another crash. New charges. My parents never changed their tone. They called occasionally, always the same way. No greeting, no curiosity about my life. Your brother is going through something, my mother would say. You should come home and help, my father added. Help what? Calm him, pay something. Sit quietly while they pretended nothing was wrong. Eventually, I stopped answering. With work and school, my life slowly steadied. Rent got paid on time. I learned to cook actual meals. Rice, eggs, vegetables from the discount shelf. I fixed my own car. I stopped guessing about money. There were nights I sat at my tiny desk textbooks, opened the house loud around me, and felt something I'd never felt growing up. I was building something. It wasn't pretty or easy, but it was mine, and no one could take it from me. Finishing community college took longer than it was supposed to. I worked through all of it, which meant lighter course loads and heavier exhaustion. But when I finally walked out with my associate degree, the transcript felt like proof that I hadn't imagined my own effort. I transferred to a 4-year university after that. It wasn't prestigious, but it was solid, affordable, and close enough that I could keep working part-time without breaking myself in half. My schedule looked impossible on paper. Early mornings, late nights, weekends that blurred into weekdays. But by then, I knew how to keep moving, even when everything in me wanted to stop. Uncle Wilson kept showing up in quiet, practical ways. He helped me move apartments. He fixed a busted lock. He handed me tools instead of advice and said, "Figure it out." Then he stepped back and let me learn. It was the only kind of parenting I'd ever known that actually taught me something. My last year at the university was when I met Ethan. I was working extra hours at the front desk of a campus building, one of those student jobs, designed to fill gaps in the budget. He came in one evening asking for directions to a lecture hall. I pointed him the right way. He stopped, studied my face for a second, and said, "You look exhausted." It wasn't rude, just observant. "Long month," I said, half laughing. We kept running into each other after that. He studied in the same building, sat nearby during my shifts, sometimes brought an extra coffee and set it on the counter without making a big deal out of it. Our conversations were easy, normal. That alone felt unfamiliar. When he found out I was working 2 jobs and going to school full-time, he didn't react with pity or awe. He just said, "You don't have to downplay that, you know." It caught me off guard. I'd spent my whole life minimizing myself to stay out of the way. After graduation, I landed my first full-time job in an IT department for a manufacturing company. The pay wasn't spectacular, but it was steady. Benefits, weekends, the kind of job that didn't come with chaos attached. I texted Wilson, "Got the job." He replied a minute later, "Good, now you can stop buying garbage tools." Ethan and I started dating more seriously around then. He helped me build a budget that didn't rely on panic. He pushed me to apply for roles I assumed were out of reach. When I doubted myself, he didn't soften it. "You've done harder things than an interview," he said. "Stop selling yourself short." No one had ever talked to me like that, direct, supportive, without strings. We moved in together the next year. It wasn't dramatic or romanticized. We were already sharing most of our lives, and splitting rent made sense. He helped me organize paperwork, set up autopay, and restructure my student loans so they didn't feel like a slow drowning. I handled repairs, cooking errands. It worked because neither of us needed control. We needed balance. Eventually, I proposed. Nothing flashy, just a quiet evening at home, a ring I'd saved for, and a moment that felt honest. He looked at it, smiled, and said, "Took you long enough." With 2 incomes and careful saving, we bought a modest starter house. Old siding, worn carpet, a crooked porch light, but it was ours. We spent weekends painting walls, replacing fixtures, building something that didn't shake under raised voices. Wilson came by the first week with a toolbox. He looked around and nodded. Loose railing and a crooked porch light, he said. Good. Means you didn't overpay. Ethan laughed. He's proud of us, he translated. Wilson grunted. Yeah, that too. Around that time, my parents started reaching out again. The messages were strange, overly cheerful, overly polite. We're so proud of you, Shauna. You've built such a nice life. My father asked if I wanted to come by sometime soon. They didn't mention Dustin at all, which told me everything I needed to know. Ethan read one of the messages and handed my phone back. They want something. I nodded. I could feel it too. But this time the feeling didn't scare me. I had a degree, a steady job, a partner who didn't confuse love with chaos, a home built by my own hands. Whatever was coming, it wasn't going to knock me back into the life I'd escaped. The call came on a random Tuesday evening, right as Ethan and I were finishing dinner. The plates were still warm when my phone buzzed on the counter. Mom, I hadn't heard her voice in years. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You going to answer? Yeah, I said already, standing. Let's see what they want. She didn't say hello. Shauna, it's your brother, Angela blurted, her voice sharp and breathless. He needs help again. It's serious this time. In the background, I heard Jefferson's voice, irritated and loud. Tell her to stop dragging her feet. We don't have time for this. I stepped into the hallway and closed the door behind me. What's going on? Angela sniffled, the specific kind of cry she used when she wanted something. Dustin is struggling. He's been through so much lately. That's not an answer. Jefferson took the phone. Listen, there's a facility, 12-month program. Good place. Costs $35,000. We need you to cover it. I laughed once quietly. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. Why would you think I'd do that? Because you can, Jefferson snapped. You've got a house, a good job, a stable life. You owe it to your family. To who I asked. For what? Angela jumped back in. We raised you. We supported you. Your life turned out well because we gave you structure. Structure. I stared at the wall, remembering nights spent counting coins and rationing noodles. You made sacrifices for Dustin, I said. She ignored that. Family helps family. You didn't help me, I said. Not once. Jefferson's voice hardened. Don't rewrite history. You're doing well now. You can afford to help your brother. $35,000 isn't help, I said. It's a bailout. He won't survive without treatment, Angela pleaded. If you don't step up, he could hurt himself. My phone buzzed in my hand. Then again. Voicemails, one after another. I opened the first. Shauna, please, Dustin slurred. Just help me. Mom and Dad said you would. Another. You think you're better than me? You're not. You had everything handed to you. Another. If nobody helps me, I swear I'll do something stupid. Is that what you want? Begging, blame, threats, all tangled together. I put the phone back to my ear. I'm not paying for rehab. Angela gasped like I'd confessed to a crime. How could you say that? He's your brother. Jefferson exploded. You selfish little after everything we did for you. What did you do for me? I asked calmly. Name one thing. Silence. Then Jefferson snapped louder. You didn't get where you are without us. We gave you a foundation. No, I said. Uncle Wilson gave me a foundation. I built everything else myself. Angela's voice went high and shaky. You've turned cold. Ethan changed you. You used to care about this family. Jefferson added, she wouldn't talk like this if he didn't poison her. From the kitchen, Ethan muttered, wow, charming. I kept my voice steady. I'm hanging up now. You walk away from this, Jefferson warned, and you're no daughter of mine. You made that decision years ago, I said, and ended the call. The voicemails kept coming. Long, erratic messages swinging between apologies and accusations. I blocked Dustin, then Angela, then Jefferson. Ethan sat beside me on the couch. You okay? Yeah, I said. I'm just done. By morning, my phone was on fire. Extended family, group chats, accusations. How could you abandon your brother? Your parents sacrificed everything. You think you're better than us now. None of them had shown up when I was broke and scared. None of them had helped me survive. They only found their voices when someone else's chaos demanded money. So I wrote one email. I listed every arrest, every rehab attempt, every legal bill. I explained how my parents drained my college fund, how I worked 2 jobs, how they never once asked how I was doing. I ended with one sentence. If you believe in helping Dustin so much, the rehab needs $35,000. There are about 15 of you, so that's roughly $2,300 each. I hit send. Not one person offered money. They called me cruel, heartless, embarrassing. I blocked them all. That night, Ethan slid a cup of tea in front of me. Uncle Wilson called, he said. He said you did the right thing. I nodded. For the first time, their chaos didn't pull me back in. Dustin overdosed 9 months after that final phone call. There was no buildup, no warning that felt different from all the others. Just a call from an unfamiliar number, early in the morning, the kind that instantly tightens your chest before you even answer. "This is Officer Harris," the voice said. "We're calling to inform you that your brother Dustin Collins was found deceased." The rest of the sentence blurred into procedural language, times, locations, next steps. But I'd already stopped hearing it. I thanked him out of reflex, hung up, and sat on the edge of the bed with my hands resting on my knees. Ethan came in a minute later, hair still messy from sleep. He took one look at my face and knew. "What happened?" he asked softly. "It's Dustin," I said. "He's gone." He sat beside me without asking anything else. There wasn't anything to ask. Dustin's life had been one long collision course, and as much as I wished it weren't true, nothing about the ending surprised me. It was sad. It was heavy. But it wasn't shocking. Angela didn't call. Jefferson didn't either. I didn't expect them to. They were probably already rewriting the story, trying to figure out who to blame this time. A cousin I barely remembered forwarded me the funeral notice later that day. Ethan read it over my shoulder. "You going?" he asked. "No." He nodded like he'd already known the answer. Instead of standing in a church listening to speeches about a version of Dustin that never existed, Ethan and I drove out to a hiking trail about an hour from our house. The weather was clear and cool quiet in a way that felt honest. We walked for miles without talking much. Just the sound of our steps on dirt and leaves, the occasional bird overhead. At one point, Ethan stopped and looked at me. "You okay?" "I don't know," I said. "But this feels better than pretending we were close." He took my hand. "You already gave enough to that family. This moment gets to be yours." Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I didn't need it saved to know who it was. Ethan looked at me, waiting. "I'll deal with it now," I said. "Jefferson didn't say hello." "You didn't come," he said, his voice thin and strained. "No, he was your brother." "He was also your responsibility," I said. "Not mine." A long pause followed, then a shaky breath. "We lost him." "You lost him a long time ago," I replied. "This is just the end of the same story." Angela took the phone then. Her voice was thick, uneven. "We tried everything. You don't understand how hard it was." "I understand more than you think," I said. She inhaled sharply. "How could you not come?" "Because I stopped being part of that world a long time ago." She didn't argue. She didn't yell. She just breathed like there were words she wanted to say but couldn't make line up anymore. I ended the call first. 2 weeks after the funeral, the fallout spread. Through relatives and old neighbors, I heard bits and pieces. Angela and Jefferson fought with nearly everyone. Jefferson lashed out at Dustin's old friends. Angela blamed rehab centers for turning them away years ago. They burned bridges with anyone who tried to comfort them. Grief mixed with denial is volatile. No one wanted to be near them. The financial consequences followed. The house had been refinanced twice. Credit cards were maxed out. Old legal debts resurfaced. Eventually, they lost the house entirely. Someone sent Ethan a link to the auction listing. We didn't click it. Uncle Wilson checked in more than usual during that time. One weekend, he showed up with pizza and set the box on the counter like he'd always done. "You hear about your folks?" he asked. "Bits and pieces." He nodded. "They're not handling anything well. But that's not on you." "I know." He studied me for a second, then said, "You did right by your own life. Not many people climb out of what you climbed out of." Before he left, he put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm proud of you." That stayed with me longer than anything my parents had ever said. A month later, an envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a letter written in shaky handwriting. "Shauna, we failed Dustin. We failed you. We made choices we thought were right, and they hurt both our children. We're sorry. We don't expect forgiveness. We just hope someday you'll understand. We tried." Ethan watched my face as I finished reading. "Do you want to respond?" "No," I said. "There's nothing to say." "You feel okay?" "I feel nothing," I answered honestly. Not anger, not relief, just distance. People think closure is dramatic, tears, forgiveness, some emotional release. But closure isn't a door slamming shut. It's realizing the door doesn't matter anymore. My parents were part of my life once. Now they weren't. The tragedy was theirs. The consequences were theirs. The regrets were theirs. The life they never helped build was still standing. That evening, Ethan and I sat on the porch with the lights off, listening to cars pass in the distance. He leaned against me. "You did everything you could," he said. "I did everything that was mine to do," I replied. Peace doesn't come from fixing the past. It comes from finally stepping out of it. And I had.